Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaskaram. Welcome to this lecture titled Natya and Nritya in the Andhra region. For any one of us to understand about the history of a dance form or a music form or a theatre form, it is very important that we also learn about the other dance, drama and music histories of the places that are surrounding it or in it. Because as said before, any dance form or music form or theatre form always have cross-cultural influences, and not just that, from the ancient period until the British colonized us, the royals' patronage played a very important role in the upcoming encouragement and the development of any of the art forms. When we talk about any major poet or a dancer or a musician or a literary personality, talking about the royal patronages that they received plays a very major role in the development of the art form that they are into. Apart from the Kuchipudi dance drama tradition, the Andhra region has a huge culture of Natya and Nritya. But to understand what is Natya and what is Nritya, we have to get into the definitions of that. Natya is basically a drama tradition which has a Purva Kadhamsham. What is a Purva Kadhamsham? It has a story plot, certain number of characters to take the story forward, and the actors who are participating in the drama will come to the stage dressing up like the role of the character. There are musicians who play music, singers who sing, and sometimes the actors who sing their lines, and there are dialogues that they recite. There are instruments, there are stage properties, and everything that makes it to look like a complete drama. So Natya is, on a very serious note, drama. That is why the treatise that has been authored by sage Bharata is titled as Natya Shastra, which means the Shastra of drama. Drama is a combination of dance, music and theatre. So, dear students, henceforth, when you talk about dance, do not call it Natya, call it Nritya. Natya is much bigger than dance. Dance is a part of Natya. Natya is drama. And coming to Nritya, what is Nritya? Nritya is dance where you perform for a certain composition written by a Vagyekara or a poet. You don't have a storyline in the composition. It is either in the praise of a god or a king or a local chieftain, or sometimes talking about a social condition. The narrative ends there without getting into the past or the future. And the dancer who is dancing for that composition doesn't dress like certain characters that are projected in the composition. The dancer is only depicted in the Ekaharya, which means a single costume of a dancer, but through his or her actions and the way they walk and the way they behave is where the characters are portrayed in the compositions through different Sanchari Bhavas. So basically, Nritya is dancing to a certain composition, and Natya is a drama that has a story plot and characters. Now let us understand what were the Natya and the Nritya that were prevalent in the Andhra region right from the ancient period. But before understanding about Natya and Nritya, it is very important that we understand that there are two types of dance forms. One is Natya Mela and the other is Nattuva Mela. Now that we understand that Natya is drama, Natya Mela tradition is something where the dance is performed as a dance drama, where the dancers come in the way of the characters or in the get-up of the characters. They sing by themselves or sometimes by the orchestra, and there is a Sutradhara who is also a part of the drama. And this is many a times, or rather most of the times, only performed by men of a certain community until the early parts of the 20th century. This Natya Mela tradition is usually seen outside the temples. And when it comes to Nattuva Mela, it is a single dancer tradition wherein a dancer is dressed in the costume of the dancer itself and not any character that she is portraying. And there is a separate orchestra, a Nattuvanar, who is usually the guru of the dancer, and separate instruments as lead forms for the performance. And this Nattuva Mela tradition is usually performed inside the temples. Kuchipudi dance belongs to the Natya Mela tradition, and Bharatanatyam, which was earlier called as Sadiratam or Dasiyatam, belongs to the Nattuva Mela tradition. These examples are only for our understanding in this particular lecture. This Andhra region, which has a huge Natya Mela and Nattuva Mela traditions, we see the mention of the word Andhra as a geographical region right in the Aitreya Brahmana. Aitreya Brahmana is a Brahmana that is attached to the Rig Veda. We see Andhra as a geographical region, and this Aitreya Brahmana belongs to the first millennium BCE. So that old is the region of Andhra right from the Rig Vedic period. And even in the Natya Shastra of Bharata, we see a raga with the name Andhri as a contribution by the people who belonged to this geographical region called as Andhra. So the Andhra region is quite a familiar and a prevalent geographical area that was there right from the Vedic period. The Samskrita dramas were prevalent right from the ancient times. Now after the Vedic times, when we get on to the early parts of the ancient times, we see that the Samskrita dramas were very much prevalent in the Andhra region. My dear students, Samskrita dramas and Samskrita texts were prevalent not just in Andhra region, but in all the regions that came under the umbrella term of Bharata Desha. It was until almost the 10th to 11th century that Samskrita dramas and Samskrita texts were extremely prevalent in all parts of the country. It is only from the 11th century that we see the regional languages also taking over the performing arts arena and also the literary texts. We might have had regional language texts much before that, but from a documentation perspective, we see the existence of the regional languages getting into the performing arts areas only from the 11th century CE. Thanks to the Bhakti movement that started from the south of India and spread to the entire nook and corner of India, that there was a lot of emphasis on the regional language, because at that particular point of time, all classes of people never had access to understand Samskrita or rather read Samskrita or rather get educated in Samskrita. So it was very important that the regional languages spread bhakti, spread the Puranic stories on God for all classes of people to understand that God is accessible, bhakti is but a very natural thing, and everyone had the access to understand what is good and what is bad. So we see a lot of Telugu literature, like other regional literatures, getting into the performing arts plethora from the 11th century onwards. Until then, any dance drama tradition, they used to only perform for the Samskrita songs from the classical texts. The Natya Mela tradition, which had troops of male actors performing together in different places in the streets or the village junctions, or sometimes immediately outside the temple, were called as Melam. We have Kuchipudi Bhagavata Melam, Melattur Bhagavata Melam, Yakshagana, Karnataka Yakshagana Melam. All these are the dance drama tradition troupes that were called as Melams, which comes from the word Melavimpu, which means harmony. After the decline of the central Mauryan Empire, the Andhra region was ruled by the Shatavahanas. The Shatavahanas ruled the Andhra region from the 2nd century BCE to the 2nd century CE, and during the rule of the Shatavahanas, we see a lot of encouragement to drama and sculpture. Religiously, Shatavahana rulers encouraged Buddhism as a religion, but they had a very secular view for both the Buddhist and the Hinduism scriptures. For the drama and the sculpture purposes, they patronized so many Hindu poets and sculptors and the Hindu religion as such. One such example that we have also seen in the last lecture is the open-air theatre near the Nagarjuna Konda in Amaravati, which was directly under the rule of Shatavahanas, where open-air theatres were constructed for presenting dramas in Samskrita. And then after the decline of the Shatavahanas, we have the Ikshvaku dynasty, who also continued the patronage for the arts and culture. After came the Pallava dynasty, and their capital in the Andhra region was Palnadu. After Pallavas came the Vishnu Kundinas, whose capital in the Andhra region was in Denduluru. The Palnadu region and the Denduluru are still very much existing in the Andhra region now with the same name. After the Vishnu Kundinas came the Kalinga Ganga dynasty. Kalinga Ganga dynasty played a very major role in terms of the arts and especially the performing arts, because the Gita Govinda of Jayadeva, which belongs to the Audra region, or which is called as Odisha in the modern terms, Gita Govinda played a very major role in spreading the Krishna Bhakti and the Krishna cult in the Orissa, Bengal and the Andhra regions that it had neighbors with. During the Ganga dynasty, major portion of the coastal Andhra, including the Krishna district where Kuchipudi is situated, was under the Ganga dynasty rule, the Kalinga Ganga dynasty rule. And because of that, the Kalinga Ganga rulers very consciously sent troops of actors to the many places in the coastal Andhra region, including the Krishna district. The troops consisted of actors who performed the stories or the songs from the Jayadeva's Gita Govinda. And because of this, a lot of Krishna Bhakti was propagated and a lot of new performing art genres came into contact with the Krishna district of the Andhra Pradesh. The Gita Govindam of Jayadeva also had a very impactful effect on the mind of Siddhendra Yogi, the father of the Kuchipudi dance, which we will know in the coming lectures. After the Kalinga Ganga dynasty came the mighty Chola dynasty. All of us have known about Chola dynasty little, and thanks to the Ponniyin Selvan movie also, we know about the Chola mighty dynasty. But Chola dynasty also ruled major portion of the Andhra region from 1850 to 1100 CE, and Chola dynasty's period can be undoubtedly termed as the golden period for art and architecture. Because it is around the 3rd or the 4th century CE that we see the experimentation on the concept called as temple that started in the south of India, and we have the ruins in many regions in Karnataka where the very first temple architectures, experimentation on how the temples should be constructed is still seen. The Chola dynasty rulers have patronaged and encouraged, and under their supervision, a lot of temples were constructed during their era. And temple isn't just a religious place, but a culturally vibrant place where art also survives. And because of the temples, many Devadasis were attached to the temples. A lot of Nattuva Mela tradition and a lot of Natya Mela tradition was extremely prevalent during the Chola dynasty time. After the Chola dynasty came the Eastern Chalukyas from 1022 to 1063 CE. During the time of Cholas and the Chalukyas, Shaivism was a very prevalent sect of Hindu religion. We see the construction of many Shiva temples, not just in Andhra, but entire south of India. And exclusively for Andhra, we see temples of Draksharamam, Samarlakota, and Bhimavaram. And when you see those temples, there are a lot of sculptural evidences of dances that have been sculpted on the walls of the temple, which is a direct evidence of a lot of dance traditions being prevalent in and out of the temple areas. And it was during the Chalukyan period that we see the very first translation of Mahabharata in the Telugu language by Sri Nannaya. Of course, Nannaya couldn't complete all the 18 parvas of Mahabharata translation into Telugu, which was further completed by Tikkana and Yerra Pragada. But you see, it was during the Chalukyan period that a lot of emphasis was given on Telugu translations right from the epic Mahabharata. Then came the Kakatiyas. We need not talk about just Natya during the Kakatiya period and a lot of Nritya, because during the Kakatiya period, today you go to Warangal, there is a 1,000-pillar temple called as Ramappa temple, and that is where you find a lot of Desi dance traditions as sculptures, as an evidence of the vibrancy of the local dance traditions that were so famous and prevalent during those times. It was during the Kakatiya period that the elephant commander chief by the name Jayapa Senani, who was a direct relative of the Kakatiya king, has written a treatise called as Nritya. Nritya is composed of 8 chapters. The first 4 chapters talk about the Marga tradition of dance, and the entire next 4 chapters talk just about the Desi dance traditions. Imagine a 13th century book that has dedicated almost half of it to the Desi dance traditions way back during those times. You can understand how many Desi traditions of dance were prevalent during those times, that an entire half of the treatise is dedicated to that. That was the amount of encouragement that the Kakatiyas gave to art and especially dance in the Andhra region. Many Desi dance traditions and their techniques in Nritya for as many as 4 chapters, as I said before, have been mentioned. All these dance traditions belong to the Andhra region majorly. So until the 13th century, which is the Kakatiya period, Shaivism was very predominant. And because Shaivism was very predominant and the kings were promoting the Shiva Bhakti or the Shaivism, the dancers or the dramatists or the musicians were singing, dancing the Shiva Leelas, or the stories of the Shiva were very prominent in the drama tradition as well. The temples of Sri Kalahasti, Sri Shailam, Mahakaleshwaram were famous in the Andhra regions. Now, one very important thing about these temples and the next coming chapters on Yakshaganam is that one, during those days when the pilgrims had to visit the Sri Kalahasti or the Sri Salem or the Mahakaleshwaram temples, they had to travel through forests to get a chance to have the darshanam of the god in the temple, and again travel through the forests to come back to their native place. Of course, forests are not a very safe place for the general public to go. Then how did the pilgrims travel? These forests of Andhra had tribal communities called as Chenchu, Kurava and Jakkula, who exclusively were forest tribes and who helped these pilgrims pass through the forest safely, have the visit, darshan in the temple, and again make them pass the forest safely and let them go back home. And during the passing through the forest, wherever they had a night stay with a fire camp to just don't let animals get into their areas, these Jakkula, these Chanchu and these Kurava tribes entertained the pilgrims by singing, dancing and enacting songs in their own way. And that is how we see a lot of the Jakkula performance traditions very much attached to the Andhra region performing traditions. From these Jakkula community and their method of performance and showcasing the story is where we see the initial roots of the Yakshaganam in the crudest form taking picture. We'll see about that more in the upcoming lectures, where we have an exclusive lecture on the Yakshaganams and the Kuchipudi Yakshaganams in particular. After the Kakatiya's rule, in the 13th century, we see the emergence of the mighty Vijayanagara Empire by the Sangama dynasty people Harihara and Bukkaraya, who started this Vijayanagara Empire, and by the time of Sri Krishna Devaraya, who belongs to the Tuluva dynasty, almost entire South India was under the Vijayanagara rule. All of us know undoubtedly that Vijayanagara Empire was known for its patronage for art and culture. Sri Krishna Devaraya himself had Ashtadiggajas in his court who have contributed immensely to the Telugu literature and music. Krishnadevaraya encouraged a lot of dancers and dance drama traditions, because of which many forms were prevalent in the Andhra region. It is with the Vijayanagara Empire that we see a shift from the Shaivism to the Vaishnavism in the Andhra region, and more so especially because of the influence of the Gita Govinda from the Jayadeva through the Bhakti movement and also the Kalinga Ganga dynasty. We see a lot of Krishna cult being prevalent in the Andhra region in all the arenas of the performing arts. And because of the Vaishnavism becoming very prevalent, with the texts of Gita Govindam and the Bhagavata Purana, the dance drama traditions of, say, example, Kuchipudi or the Devadasis or the Rajanartakis performed Vishnu Leela stories in all their presentations. Narahari Tirtha, a very prominent disciple of Sri Madhvacharya, who is the progenitor of the Dvaita philosophy of the Udupi Mutt in Karnataka, Narahari Tirtha, for certain political reasons, had to be the ruler of the Kalinga Ganga dynasty for almost 12 years. What is that? We'll see when we discuss about Bhama Kalapam. But as of now, please understand that one Narahari Tirtha's disciple, Gopala Krishna Saraswati, stayed in Srikakulam in 11 years and spread the Krishna Bhakti. Even Narahari Tirtha and also Madhvacharya were very much important in terms of the performing arts of not just Andhra but the entire south of India. There are legends that say that the Karnataka Yakshagana is prevalent or originated because of the efforts of Sri Madhvacharya. But let us come back to our Natya and Nritya in Andhra region. Narahari Tirtha's disciple Gopalakrishna Saraswati has composed Mahabhagavatam, Sri Krishna Jalakrida and Gopalakrishna Vritti. All these are literary, very important contributions by the composers from the Andhra region, which has immensely benefited the performing arts area. As I said, the Vishnu Leela Natyas were performed in the temples and Bhagavata Mela Natakas were performed outside the temples because of the Krishna cult importance. And the Bhagavata Mela Natakas, after a certain period of time, followed the Yakshagana genre. So, this is a little of the information about the Natya and the Nritya period in the Andhra region. Now, when you go back and look at all the dynasties that have ruled until the Vijayanagara Empire, of course, the Vijayanagara Empire later, after the war of Tallikota, there came a decline in the Vijayanagara Empire and the Muslim rulers have taken over. But of course, fortunately, the Muslim rulers also encouraged the art and especially the performing arts in the Andhra region. But after the decline of the Vijayanagara Empire, a wave of migrations with a fear have happened to Tanjavur, where the Nayaka rulers were ruling. And that is where we see many families of the Kuchipudi Bhagavatulu migrating to the Tanjavur for the Nayaka rulers, and there we see a Nayaka ruler, Achyutappa Nayaka, giving a gift of an Agraharam as Achyutapuram to the few Brahmin families who have migrated. That Achyutapuram was renamed as Melattur, which exactly means Mela Uru, the place where the Melam is residing. Now, eventually, these Bhagavata actors who have migrated from the Kuchipudi village have made the Achyutapuram or the now called Melatturu as their home, and from there we see the Melattur Bhagavata Mela Nataka taking its shape. Today, when you see Melattur Bhagavata Mela Nataka, their text, their lyrics, their dialogues are all in Telugu. And they perform the Prahalada Charitam that the Kuchipudi Bhagavata Mela performers also perform. But there is a little Bharatanatyam influence because it now belongs to the Tamil Nadu region on the costumes and the hairdo of the Melattur Bhagavata Mela actors. But still, they follow the Telugu texts and the Telugu dialogues for their presentation of their Bhagavata Melam. And after the rule of the Nayakas and the Marathas and the Muslim rulers, we have the colonization of the British East India Company. And post-independence, we have so many other changes, developments and innovations that have happened to make Kuchipudi how it looks like today. We shall discuss all these in our next lectures. And this is about the Natya and the Nritya traditions and the dynasties that were prevalent in the Andhra region. Thank you. Namaskaram.